Hey everyone, welcome to Heavy Tones, the channel all about going low and heavy with guitar. And in this video, let's do a shootout on 10 of the most popular overdrive effects that you can use for modern low-tuned guitar tones. I'm actually going to be looking at virtual or emulated overdrive effects. But first, let's go over why you'd want to use an overdrive effect with a low-tuned mod metal tone. So by taking an overdrive effect and placing it in front of your amp with the gain turned all the way down and the tone and level in the middle, you're going to give some clarity to the sound and a little boost in the mid-range, and it's just going to really help it sit really nicely in the mix. So with these effects that I'm going to be showing you, we're going to be using those same settings across all the pedals and then do some tweaking and a playthrough so you can hear the differences between them. But before doing that, let me first play through a riff so you got an idea of the song we're going to be using, and then we'll take a look at those effects. Okay, so that was a song. So now you got an idea of the riff that we're going to be using. Now let's go through and take a look at those overdrive effects in the software. Before jumping in, let me first punt a few things. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I'd highly appreciate it. And click on that notification bell to be notified of future videos. I'm going to be using Studio One to demonstrate this riff. And if you don't already know, I'm a Groove 3 instructor, so you can go and take a look at some of the courses that I've done covering different music production and composition techniques and skills. I'll leave a link in the description to that, or you can just go to Groove 3 and type my name and search through the courses that I've done. But with that out the way, let's go see those overdrive effects and what they sound like. Okay, so let's go over these overdrive effects. But before getting into that, let me first go over the amp that I'm using and a slight bit of processing. So I'm using STL's new AmpHub plugin, and I've got an instance of a dual rectifier using channel 2 set to the modern setting. Then after this, I've just done some slight EQing where I've done a low cut, a little bit of a boost at about 200 Hertz, a dip at 700 Hertz, and then shelved off some of the low end. And then after that, I've also just added some slight compression. So this is what the guitar sounds like without any overdrive. Okay, so now let's go over the overdrive effects that we're going to be using. So I'm going to start at the top here, and as you can see, I've got 10 overdrive effects. Starting off, we've got an emulation of the classic Tubescreamer. This is from AmpHub. Then after this, there is the Maxon 808 overdrive, also in AmpHub. You've got an emulation of the Boss overdrive. Then there's the Xotic BB Preamp. So a preamp is like a boosted signal and acts pretty much like an overdrive effect where you're boosting the tone and coloring it and giving a slight scoop in the mid. Then there's the TCE Preamp over here, also a preamp pedal, but acts like an overdrive effect. Then I'm going over to THU, and in here there's an emulation of the Boss Blues driver. Also in there is the DOD 250 or DOD, I'm not too sure how everyone says that, but I'll say DOD. There's also a Vox Treble Booster. Then going across into some Neural DSP plugins, we've got the HexDrive. And then finishing off, we've got the Earthquaker Devices Plumes. So let's go through these. I'm going to cycle through an area in the song, and then I'm going to turn each one on. And if you noticed, like I mentioned, the drive is all the way down, or the gain is all the way down, and then the tone and level are set in the center. Going through the rest of the plugins, you'll see it's pretty much the same, with some slight tweaks in some of the others. So that's the same there. With the BBE, I've got a slight bit of gain because if you turn the gain all the way down, it doesn't quite sound the same. There's no gain on the TCE Preamp, but everything is set flat in the middle. You've got the Blues driver that's also got a slight bit of gain because if you turn the gain all the way down, it just sounds like a clean signal. This is also boosted slightly with the drive. The Vox Treble Booster is slightly different. It's just got an amount and we've boosted that. The HexDrive is the same, drive all the way down. And then with the Plumes, this is a bit of a different one. The gain is all the way down, but there's 3 different modes. So I'm going to play through all the other overdrive effects, and then with the Plumes, I'm going to play through the 3 different modes. So let's go through. I'm just going to jump right back to the beginning, and I'm going to play through, but I just want to actually minimize this view so that I can see all the effects over here. I'll just open each one and just pin it, and let's go through. Cool, so there you go. There are the overdrive effects. Now let's go through in more detail to hear what these sound like in isolation with just the guitar. First, I'll play it through with just the Dual Rec, and the Dual Rec is really known to have some low mids and some lows. So the overdrive is going to tighten up that sound and give some focus to the low end. So here's the guitar before. And now we open up our Tubescreamer, the classic Tubescreamer, and I'm going to dial in the drive and fiddle with the tone as we play back now. So hear how this tightens up the sound. I'll enable that and play back. Next on to the Maxon. Then on to the Boss Overdrive. Then with the Xotic BB Preamp, this has a slight bit of gain, so I'm going to change the gain and the treble and the boost. Then moving on to the TCE Preamp, this doesn't have any drive, but it does have a bass and a treble. Then on to the Boss Blues driver. As I mentioned, there's a slight bit of gain to match how the other overdrive effects sound, and I'm going to tweak these parameters as well. Moving on to the DOD 250, also with a slight bit of drive, but we're going to tweak the drive and the tone. Moving on to the Vox Treble Booster. Now this is a slightly different effect. This is really going to boost those trebles. And you'll notice that it really gets a bit sharp. What you'd probably want to do with your amp is boost the bass and then add a treble booster. But I find that this effect works really well if you're going for those sort of high treble, djenty tones. So I'm just going to quickly jump to the amp and just boost the lows. So any treble booster is going to really accentuate those highs. So just make note of that if you're using any form of treble boosting pedal, and then you just need to go to your amp and readjust the settings. So I'm going to go back to that amp and just turn back that bass and move on to the next one. So next we've got the HexDrive, and this is really aimed more at lower, heavier sort of driven music. So the drive, even set all the way down, is still going to be quite heavy. And lastly, moving on to the Plumes. I'm actually just going to switch first back to the first mode, and then I'm going to go through the 3 different modes here. So that's the 10 different overdrive effects that you can use, the virtual emulations. Going through all these ones over here, they add slightly different bits of coloring, but as you've heard, they all focus that low-tuned guitar sound and help them sit better in the mix, especially with those low-tuned riffs. And as mentioned, the preferable setting is to have the gain all the way down and then the tone and level in the middle, but you can slightly tweak the tone and gain to taste depending on your production and how you want it to sound. Okay, so those are the overdrive effects. Which ones did you like? Personally, I really like the Boss Overdrive Effect and the Earthquaker Devices Plumes Overdrive Effect. I find that these really color the sound and add a nice tone quality to the tone that I'm going after. In the comments below, let me know what you think, which ones you preferred and which ones you like using. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, please give a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell to be notified of future videos. I'll catch you in the next one.